This video is for this So You Think You Got a Shoal training, AISAP tool, exercise 4, built-in tools for data visualization and quantitative analysis. Before starting, you need an AISAP account with a username and password. Also, you need to have completed exercises 1, 2, and 3. The exercise goal is to learn how to access heat maps, vessel track lines, and vessel statistics in your project. There are questions listed along the way to help you explore the results. They are listed as Q1, Q2, etc. Step 1 is to log into AISAP Cloud. I'm on the AISAP site. I entered my email and password, and I click Login. Step 2, I'm going to choose the folder Training. So select a folder, click the down arrow, go to Training. Step 3, Projects is open. I click the down arrow next to select a project, and I choose CalcShoe Example. So we can see if we scroll down that the areas of interest we created in exercise 3 are still here. You can also see them highlighted on the map. Step 4, I'm going to click on the Analysis tab. So I'm in Areas of Interest. Currently at AOIs, I click on Analysis. Make sure your AOIs are white, so they have finished processing. Step 5, in the AOI region row, check the heat map selection. So we have region, we can see the column header heat map, and it's a little button next to what looks like a globe, and we're going to click on it. It takes a second to load as it's pulling up a heat map that goes for this geofence. So now we see that it has loaded. So as part of step 5, we want to explore the heat map, including zooming in and out. Just a couple of things to note. We queried this AIS query source was for the CalcShoe area, but also includes where those vessels came and went to, so we can actually see where vessels traveled. The reason it stops here, we don't see them going further, or this is the southernmost part, is just, it's drawing inside our area of interest. If we had drawn the area even larger, we would have seen the heat map even further. Some things here, you might say it's outside the area of interest. It's more the map is just bleeding over. If you were to zoom in, it would stay contained within the area of interest. Some things to do are zoom in and out. This heat map is really a relative density plot. So relative meaning relative to what else is in the screen. So as you zoom in and out, spots will get brighter. Brighter means the more AIS data, so more pings from vessels. So the blue means the less pings. So I'm zooming in, and you can see that it reformats. So question 1, do vessels just stay local? And my answer, although please answer in your own words and include your own thoughts, is no, they're not just staying in this local area. We can clearly see they're going over to Texas, going over to Louisiana, going through the Gulf. And if I wanted to see even further where they went, I'd have to draw an even larger area of interest. Question 2, are vessels using the channel? Well, where's the channel? So I'm going to go to Map Tools, Use Face Layers, and choose Channel Reach so I can actually see the channel. Click the X to close this. And I'm going to zoom in on the CalcShoe area until I get to where I can see the channel reach, which is a blue layer. So zoom in, we can see here's the channel reach. You click on it, you actually get data about the channel reach, such as its name and other information. This information is added by the districts. It's not, so AISAP is just feeding in this layer. AISAP doesn't control what's written in here. Okay. Our vessel is using the channel, so we can see here vessels look like from the heat map. Vessels are staying inside the channel. Let me see if I zoom out what happens. I don't see the channel anymore. Zoom in. But then you can also see there are plenty of vessels that are going outside of the channel. Question 3, what can the bright spots tell you? So said the brighter, so like the white is where you're getting more and more AIS position reports, the most position reports. So let's look at the map here. We see a whole bunch of bright spots. What can we see at those locations? Well, where are vessels spending a lot of time? This is a terminal, which makes sense. Vessels are spending a lot of time at the terminal, so bright spots can indicate where there are terminals. It's not an absolute, but they can indicate there's a terminal there. So if you're wondering if an area is a terminal, or maybe there's a terminal that you're wondering is it still used, or one that you didn't know of before, the heat maps can identify potential terminal locations. This might be a fleeting area, or we'd want to look at more what's going on right here. Let's see where else we see some bright spots. We see some here. From these could be, we'll have to find out more what type of vessels these are, but they could be like a fishing vessel staying in an area, or they could be maybe a tanker cargo vessel that is at anchorage. And as we keep going through the different tools, you'll see how you actually can answer those questions. It's not just going to be a guess. We'll actually be able to see. Okay. So and please feel free to explore more if you like. In step 6 in the AOI region row, so back to region, we're going to click the cluster selection. So you can see there's a column called cluster, or it looks like the little icon for location. We're going to click on that. And what this tells us, will take a few seconds to load because this is a lot of data. It's telling us the numbers associated. So how many AIS position reports are associated with those spots. So we're saying to get this bright spot, it's 188 position reports behind it. As you zoom in, you'll get more localized numbers. You can zoom in and out. The purpose of this is just because of relative density, so it's bright compared to what else is around. So it's not just, oh, there's a bright spot, but you can also start getting numbers for how many AIS position reports make up the bright spots or the not so bright spots. So you explore the cluster map, including zooming in and out. Question 4, where do you see the largest amount of data? Well, at this view right now, as I zoom around, we actually have, seems like I'm getting the most up here at this is the Gulf Intercoastal, and where the Calcasieu River seems to be meeting. So let's zoom up there and see what's up there. So here's 4,000. Let's zoom in there and see what's going on. Taking a second to load. As I zoom in, so the number decreases because it will spread out. So if you see these numbers, 4,000 are aggregating it. Looks like a fleeting area for the barges, so that makes sense if the tows are pushing barges and then they're either fleeting here or waiting here. The vessels are just sitting here and pinging away, so we're getting a lot of AIS position reports for these areas. Question 5, what happens when you zoom in and out? Well, I just said it. It aggregates and deaggregates. Please go ahead and explore more on as you'd like. Okay. When you're done, step 7 in the AOI region row, we're to uncheck the heat map and cluster selections to turn off these layers. So then unclick that, and then it goes away. Of course, if you want to see it again, you just go back and click those. Step 8 in the AOI region row, so it's back in region. I'm going to click on the transits drop-down menu and select map all transits. So transits, it's this flag icon. We're going to click the little arrow, and we're going to click map all transits. And this will take a minute or two to load. Oh, here we go. It's zooming out so we can see the whole area. And it mapped transits. So what this is doing is plotting the vessel transit. So we have that, the AIS position reports are where the vessel is every couple of seconds. This is going to show us kind of do a connect the dots to determine where the vessel transferred. Some things people notice right away: hey, this vessel traveled over land. It didn't, but what happens is because we're connecting the dots, it means we probably missed some position reports of the vessel. So if we saw the vessel is seen here and here, the line gets drawn to connect the dots. You're not getting a clear picture. For example, let's zoom in. So this is the intercoastal. You can see here where the tracks follow the intercoastal. That just means you had a lot more position reports for the vessel. So that's step 8. So step 9, to add meaning to these colors, at the top of the screen go to Map Tools, and then select Vessel Track Settings, and we're then change the colors. So now it's random. You can actually make the colors meaningful. So we're actually going to try Vessel Type. We're going to add a legend, so we'll look at that in a second. You don't need to study it right now. We'll add Vessel Type. We have to click Update for this to take an effect. Okay. So right away you can see what's this light pink. Let's find that. And that's fishing vessels. What are these blue? It's passenger. What about the orange? These orange are a tanker. Step 12, we're going to click on the X to close this box. Okay, and then we're going to go back to Map Tools so we can see a nice legend box. There's actually Vessel Track Legend. Turn that on. So that could be useful for you to understand what you're looking at, but then also if you need to do some screenshots, it'll be helpful to have that in the screen. So question 6, which vessel types do you see? You can go ahead and name the different vessels types you see. One that's listed here says dredging. It doesn't always mean it's here, but this tells us the color. So let's look at the channel and see if we can find any dredging tracks. So from this view, I don't see it, but we will learn in a later lesson how to actually find the, to see if there is a dredging vessel track that we can look at on its own. Here's the blue, here's all the passenger ships. Question 7, what happens when you zoom in close and click on a vessel line? So this takes some practice. You have to click pretty exactly. So that click didn't work. We'll try it again, click a little more closely. But you see highlighted is the vessel track, and what it's going to tell you is information on the vessel. Remember, this is as reported by the vessel, so the vessel is saying what its name is, draft that it reported. It's probably not a dynamic draft. This is to give you more information on what's behind these different tracks. Question 8, how might the vessel tracks change if there was a shoal limiting channel navigation? So would you expect, here we can see the channel clearly, and here it looks like the tracks are inside the channel, but what might you see if there was an active shoal? What might indicate it? Would you see the straight lines? Do you think you would see anything differently? Question 9, how can you apply vessel tracks in this situation where a vessel reports a grounding? So what can that tell you? If a vessel, say, grounded, you can go ahead and look at its track and maybe identify exactly where it grounded, see if it's inside the channel or area that the course required for, or if it's outside the channel or not an area the Corps is required for maintenance. And you can also, if they say, oh, I grounded around, a river mile, or not very specific, they just tell you an area, this is a way to know exactly where the grounding occurred, so you can really look at the specific area. Okay, so now you can go ahead and explore more if you'd like. Otherwise, for step 14 in the region row, we're then going to remove these. So we'll go to region, transits to get rid of all these lines. You go back to transits, and now you click on clear transits. Step 14 in the region AOI row, click on the transits drop down menu and select clear transit. Sorry, that's step 14. Step 15. I had done that already. Click on the X at the top of the pop-up box to close the vessel track legend. It cleared itself. Step 16 in the AOI mid-channel row, click on the results drop-down menu and select vessels. So mid-channel. So let's actually see this area. So I'm going to click on this magnifying glass, and we'll get to this area. You can see it here. I'm going to go to results, which is the bar chart icon. Click on the arrow and choose vessels. And this is giving me a list of all the vessels that were seen in this area. Question 10, which vessel types do you see and why is it only tankers? So all the vessels seen, and it's only vessel type tanker, and it's because we added a filter for this area to only see the tankers. So if we hadn't put that, we would have seen many more vessel types. Question 11, what dimensions are the vessels self-reporting? We see there's 3 columns, draft, length, and width. And remember, these are what the vessels are self-reporting as their dimensions. Close the tab when you're done exploring the results. And just note, there's other results, there are other options of what is produced automatically for quantitative analysis. So on your own time, feel free to check out these different statistics. Step 18, in the mid-channel AOI row, so mid-channel, click on the results drop-down menu and select time spent in area. A new tab opens called Calculus Example mid-channel. That was the AOI name. Time spent in area. This tells us, so let's just look at the first record for the Palmetto State, that the area we drew, the vessel entered it on 5/3 at 1:20 p.m. This is in UTC, and it left the area at 2:20. So we know this vessel spent an hour within the area. So that's how long the vessel was dwelling in the area we set. We can see that the teal, there's 2 records because it entered our area twice. On May 1st, entered at 12 a.m., left at May 1st, 1:55 p.m., UTC. And then also on May 3rd, it was in the area from 2:45 a.m. to 3:40 a.m. It's my, just from the familiar data, it's very possible this is when the vessel was waiting to enter the port. And this could have been when the vessel, it's possible this is when the vessel exited the port. Okay. Question 12, what vessel has the longest dwell time? Well, we'll look at this dwell time column. And we can see, well, we have 17 hours here, 18 hours here, but then this 0 column is days. So it looks like we have 1 day here, another 1 day here, this 1 day and 10 hours. So this, then I'll go Julia L. has the longest dwell time. Question 13, why would tankers be dwelling in the AOI location? So the dwell time, they'd be dwelling probably anchored, maybe waiting for a terminal to open up or for a pilot vessel. And question 14, do you think dwell time would be affected by a shoal? Would vessels have to wait longer at anchorage if there's a shoal? Question 15, how would you go about conducting a before and after dwell time study? Well, how I would do it is we set this project to data requests for a certain time period. So I'd probably actually make 2 different projects. I'd make one project that looks at AIS data from before a shoaling event and get to the point where I have this and I could see what are the dwell times before the shoal, and then after a shoaling event I would look at, or while the shoal is active, hasn't been dredged yet, I'd look at the dwell times then and see is there a difference. So what that can tell you is if you maybe pull a year's worth of data and get a baseline of, hey, the average dwell time is, I don't know, just making up a number here, the average dwell time is 2 hours, but the last couple of weeks we've been seeing that increase, the last couple of months we've been seeing that dwell time increase, then that may indicate that something's going on. So it doesn't mean it's absolutely a shoal, but it's telling us something's going on, so we should investigate further with what's going on. Okay, step 19, close the tab when you're done exploring the results. Now, step 20, in the areas of intersection, we're in the areas of interest. Click on the travel times button. So we have a new tab open. It's called Calculus Shoe Example. Select AOIs and click Calculate to determine vessel travel times. This is travel times between the areas. So step 21, we're then choose mid-channel, which we drew in the Gulf, and upper section, which was inland. And then step 22, click the Calculate button. What this is going to tell us are transits between the 2 areas we drew. So the Palmetto State went from the upper section and left there on May 3rd at 9:50 a.m. UTC, and it arrived at the mid-channel section on May 3rd at 1:20 p.m. UTC for a total travel time of 3 hours and 30 minutes. The next row, we actually see a vessel that went in the opposite direction from mid-channel to the upper section. Sometimes we'll see 2 different records for the same vessel, sometimes 2 or more for the same vessel for different transits it makes. So we have the Stolt Teal wrote this 3rd record from mid-channel to upper section. This 4th record is Stolt Teal from upper section to mid-channel. Our data is just for a few days. Suppose if we were looking at a month worth of data, we would see maybe multiple transits for these vessels. Question 16, what does the travel time represent? Well, it's the time from when it departed one area to the time it arrived at the next area. What vessel has the longest travel time? So we can see there's a lot of 3 hours. It looks like the longest we have is this 3 hours and 45 minutes, which is the FPMC 28. Question 18, do you think a shoal would affect travel times? So if vessels, or if there's a shoal or any other obstacle in the channel that the vessels has to pass through, do you think that would affect the travel times? And if you believe so, how would you set up a project or projects to see if there have been any changes? So step 23, we're going to close this tab. So, and then the last question is a thought question. How could these built-in tools be useful for your projects or studies? So what could be used? It could help you we went through some of the tools for some of the areas, but maybe look at results for other areas, maybe region results. You can try summary statistics, see what there is in there. And click over, there's different tabs, so just go ahead and explore. This is telling us all the different types of vessels that were seen within the region. You can see there was one dredge, fishing vessels, a lot of towing vessels. So just go ahead and I would say explore the different buttons, turn on the different heat maps, and just as you're going through, think about how this could be useful. Or if you're not sure how it could be useful, or you think maybe it could be, but you're not quite sure if it's applicable, ask one of the instructors and we'd be happy to walk you through it. And that is the end of exercise 4.